This video is going to be about how to grow and propagate Drosera Schizandra. It's actually a pretty easy sundew to grow, but most people have trouble with it because it's kind of picky about the conditions. It's a little weird because it's susceptible to root rot, but you have to keep it in 100% humidity. And I've sort of figured out a little bit of a trick on how to grow these without rotting them. So the first thing I'm going to do is get a container like this. I like these Sphagnum ones. They have a rubber ring around the edge so you can seal this, and it's going to be airtight. And then what I went ahead and did was I drilled 4 holes at the bottom of it because I want the water to drain out, because if this sundew stands in water, the roots will rot. So what this kind of setup does is it retains the humidity at the top, but also drains the soil so that you don't get any sort of bacterial or rotting problems. And what we're going to use as a substrate is long fibered sphagnum moss, which I have soaking here. And then we're going to do that about half and half with this perlite. And again, with other carnivorous plants, you want to check that the perlite isn't Miracle-Gro, because that has additives in it and different fertilizers, and that'll burn the roots. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do is spray this down with some distilled water and then mix it through so that we get a soil mix. So the soil mix is done, and what I'm going to go ahead and do is get some of the perlite and kind of toss it in the bottom here. There's some in the corners, and just kind of want to make sort of like a drainage layer. And then what I'm going to do for the rest is pack it with this sphagnum moss. So what I went ahead and did was put like 1/4 of an inch of the long fibered sphagnum, just the pure sphagnum moss, on top of the sphagnum and perlite mix. And now what we're going to do is just take some of these Schizandras out that are growing around the corners and put them in here. And an adult plant can be, they say, like as big as your hand, but in captivity apparently they don't grow that great. So this was getting a little crowded, and I wanted to have different containers of Schizandras just in case one of them dies. I'll always have a backup plant, and I won't have to go out and buy a new one. So what we're going to go ahead and do is just pop off some of these plants that are around the corner. And I guess I'll leave this clump of the 2 large ones and just take this last one out of here. And I'm going to put it back into this jar. You shouldn't really keep them outside of 100% humidity for too long. So I'm going to go ahead and seal this up. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is sort of dig shallow little holes around here. And then I'm going to put these propagations in here. One thing that also works well with Schizandras is taking a leaf, cutting it off, and then putting it in a bag of distilled water. And then you put that bag about maybe 6 inches or so away from your grow lights, and then they propagate new little growths around the edge of the leaf. And I did that for some of these, and I put them in there temporarily, and now I'm transferring them to a larger container so they can grow bigger. And another thing is growing them in shallow containers will make them propagate more often, because instead of growing the roots straight down into the soil, they're going to be growing them horizontally, and then you'll get new little plants popping up along there. So I guess this is the 4th one, and we've got a little more than 4 in here because there's tiny little propagations along with these, so there's around 2 or 3 plants in each of these little areas. And so I'm gonna pack these not too tight to snap the roots off, but enough to keep them in place. And then the final thing I'm gonna do is get my sprayer and then just spray this down with some distilled water. And then this is pretty much ready to go. You don't want to keep these under direct sunlight. I mean, they grow indoors the best because the heat might kill them outside. But you don't want to put them directly under grow lights either, because that might start burning the leaves. And so what I do is I have my grow shelf over there, and instead of putting them directly underneath the lights, I just kind of put them off to the side here. And then with this container, it's not like completely clear, it's a little bit opaque, so I won't let all the light in, but still I just kind of keep them off to the side. And so I'm going to snap on the lid, and these are pretty much done. And it's kind of shallow, but that's okay because these sundews grow in a really flat rosette. And so that's pretty much how you grow them. It's pretty easy. All you need is some good perlite and sphagnum moss that'll drain really well out of the bottom. And then a lid that seals and it keeps the humidity up. And you don't want to water too frequently because they are prone to rot. So as soon as you see like the humidity and condensation disappearing and the container starts drying out, then you want to water this again. Like these, I have in a completely sealed container. I haven't watered that for about 2 months. But this with holes at the bottom, I'm gonna water more frequently. And then you just kind of toss them here to the side, not under the lights, but just near them, and that's pretty much it. This isn't really that hard of a plant to grow. These Schizandras don't really like to be fed because they're a little bit sensitive, and if you put a fruit fly or some fish food on the leaf, most likely the leaf will get moldy and it'll die. Some people say that these plants are evolving away from their carnivorous nature, but an adult plant is going to look pretty cool, so I think it's still worth growing them anyways.